Hello and welcome to this new podcast of Top Marketer. Today we have Colin from Sendgrid. Colin is a solutions architect and actually a deliverability expert when it comes to email. If you guys don't know what Sendgrid is, it's one of the world's leading SMTP providers. So if you want to use a provider like Sendgrid to send out transactional emails, mass marketing emails, they are the perfect partner for you. The process offer 50% of the world's emails, so that's substantially a large amount of emails. And recently acquired by Twilio to consolidate messaging. So now not only you can send messages through Sendgrid, you can send SMS, target WhatsApp, via some automated messaging as well if you have a business number and so on. Colin, welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
This is a great topic around email marketing and how marketers should receive email. So this is going to be a techie segment. So let's talk a little bit about the future of email marketing. Where do you see things headed when it comes to that?
Yeah, so filters are always getting smarter as far as the Gmails, Microsofts, Yahoos of the world. They're always trying to pick up on what people are trying to do to game the system. So really preventing spam from getting into the inbox. So whether that's subject lines, content, frequency of send, they're looking at all of these factors that go into your email marketing program to determine your reputation, essentially. So they're really big on not only looking at IP reputation, so where you're sending from, but also the domains you're using, the engagement you're getting from your users, so people are actually opening your emails, or if you're sending to people that aren't engaged, they'll tend to either give you a good reputation or bad reputation based on your sending, and then let you into the inbox more, or place you into the spam filter more, depending on if it's good or bad.
That's great. So let's dissect that for a second. So it's not only just about getting a list, uploading and blasting an email. There's a lot more that goes behind the scene.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned things around IP reputation, domain sender reputation, so how often you've been sending with good practices, the type of content that's in the email, the subject line, your recipient's quality, so have they opened it or not opened it. So there's a lot of kind of details and benchmarks that these ASPs like Gmail and Outlook are benchmarking against, right?
Exactly.
So when it comes to sending, a lot of marketers tend to buy emails, maybe not as frequent, but those who want to start from somewhere. They buy a list and they upload it and they start sending. Do you think that method works?
No, 100%, and that's one of our big vetting things that we go through with our customers. So if you're out there, do not buy lists. It's a bad practice for one, and it's just going to create problems for you if you do start to send to those. Not only because filters are going to pick up on them because they can see other senders that are using those same recipients, but also because they're typically spam trap or honeypot laden. Okay. And so all of those addresses are going to be monitored by either Gmail, Yahoo, third parties like eDataSource or 250OK. And if you do hit those email addresses, it's going to ding your reputation on the IP level and the domain level. Okay. So yeah, it might seem like an easy way to get recipients to send to, but filters are smart enough to pick up on addresses that have been either scraped from the web or purchased from a third party, and you're going to be off to a very bad start if you're sending to those.
That's a good point. So technically what I've heard is ASPs have archived about 99% of all purchase email lists, because when you buy a list, most likely 100 other people bought the same list and they're doing the same method of breaking it up and sending it. Yep. So they have smart algorithm to detect that subset that you try to segment or target matches another segment, and the results for that will resemble the result for yours, right?
Exactly.
So as smart and sophisticated you can get, you're still going to be having it that end of that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no matter how you slice up the list that you purchased, filters are going to pick up on other senders that are using those same recipients. Mm-hmm. They're going to tag those as essentially being bad addresses or spam traps. And if you have the same sending habits with the same recipients as other users that have used those same lists, you're just going to be lumped in with the bad reputation that they've already given out to all of those senders. Okay. So very hard to avoid being successful with a purchase list.
Right. And just to clarify, honeypot emails, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are emails that poses as a legit email address, but actually it ties into a server. And there's millions of them out there.
Yep.
And this is deployed by security companies, spam filters, so once something hits that inbox, they know that the sender is not using the right sending technique.
Exactly. Yeah, there's actually 3 types of honeypots or spam traps. The worst is pristine, which has never been owned by an actual human being.
Wow, okay.
They're either created by inbox providers or third parties and injected into lists or put out on the web to be scraped. Mm-hmm. And if you hit that address, it's essentially the worst spam trap you can hit. Mm-hmm. The second one is recycle traps. So say you have an old Yahoo address that you haven't used in 2 years. Yahoo could take that address back, but essentially still accept email. But if you're sending to that, that indicates bad list hygiene, and you should be cleaning that list from your address because you haven't opened an email for 2 years.
Yeah, and they know that, right?
Exactly.
That email hasn't been accessed. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last one is just a typo trap, which is exactly what it sounds like. So Gmail as opposed to Gmail, just a misspelled address, where that means you're not really validating an address upon sign up. So you're either not doing a double opt-in to have people confirm their address, or upon sign up, you're not requiring them to actually enter a valid email.
Okay. So now we tap into, or we're going to jump into the segmentation piece of your list.
Yep.
So engagement email marketing is upon us, meaning if you're sending emails for people that are never opening their email, you might want to create some sort of sunset policy where you segment them in their own group versus having the active ones in their own segment.
Yep.
So what's your recommendation when it comes to that policy?
Yeah, so pretty much two things. One is actually defining criteria for a sunset policy. Typically, we like to suggest the 6-month mark, where if somebody hasn't opened your email within 6 months, you should remove them from your list. Or what a lot of customers like to do is kind of do a re-engagement campaign, where they'll try to send one more email to say, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while. If you do want to continue to receive emails from us, click this link or fill out this form and we'll continue to send to you. Okay. A lot of times we also like to take it one step further and suggest sending those re-engagement campaigns either from a subdomain or from a different IP address altogether. One that really protects your engaged users. It keeps them segmented from a reputation standpoint, and you're not going to get your poor reputation unengaged users lumped in with your really good pristine addresses. So one, defining that criteria, but then two, having a strategy to actually re-engage with those users that haven't opened in a long time. And if they don't respond, it's best to just break up with them and remove them from your list.
Exactly, good point. So that's interesting because segmenting or creating different sending subdomains, for instance, marketing.yourdomain.com versus send, that could be one way to actually target those who are active versus not. So keep the one that has established good reputation for the good list and the ones that are your activation campaigns and less important campaigns as that other subdomain. Exactly. But I know you mentioned something that recently has happened, which is the reputation of the inbox itself, not only the domain. So you want to tell me more about that?
Yeah, so in addition to IP reputation, which has been huge for the last 10 years within email, we're actually starting to look at domain reputation. Just because there's so many IPs out there, IPv6 is coming. They actually start to look at domain reputation in addition. So introducing a subdomain to tell the filters that you're either sending a marketing stream versus a transactional stream, or say a more highly engaged with marketing stream versus a low engagement marketing stream. It's very good to split out that on a domain level in addition to the IP level.
Okay. And for those of you who don't know what IPv6 is, it's technically a longer version of IPs because all the IPs in the world almost have been allocated. So IPv6 opens up billions and billions of potential IPs, in which case it's getting harder for Gmail to trace and build a reputation on each one of these profiles, right?
Yep.
So now your domain reputation, your segmentation methodology, how often you're targeting. So you have to build up some sort of a plan, which poses a problem for marketers, but at the same time is an opportunity, because now not everybody can just whip out a list and send it.
Exactly.
If you don't do it methodologically with the right technique and the right expertise behind you, so that can come in from Sendgrid or VBOUT, then you might not get the results that you want. Now, what is the average open rate per industry that you see for decently successful campaigns overall?
Yeah, for marketing mail, typically we see 15 to 20% open rates. It comes down to the industry in most cases, but across the board, 15 to 20 is what we typically shoot for marketing messages.
That would be like a good sort of,
Yeah, so a lot of times, again, it depends on the stream.
You measure click-throughs as well. I know you have a function that you can activate click-through tracking.
Yeah.
But overall, do you have a benchmark for that?
Click-through is a little bit lower. I'd say we shoot for like 5 to 7% click-through rate.
Of the opens or of the total data set?
Of the opens.
Of the opens. So 15% of 100 open, 5% of the 15. So you're talking probably about a couple, one opens, one, two opens. Okay.
Yeah, and again, it depends on the industry. If it's more e-commerce focused, we typically see more click-through rates that actually lead to conversions.
Because transactional too makes a big difference.
Exactly.
How about the cold emails? And I know some people still do it. It's not a secret, right? Those who are sending cold emails to small lists. What's the benchmark there, if you have any?
Yeah, it really depends on the industry. Open rates are going to be much lower with cold emails, especially if they're not expecting that email. They haven't necessarily opted in to be able to receive marketing emails, which could also lead to a lot higher spam filtering and spam complaints too.
Which can impact your overall good list.
Yes.
We've seen it anywhere between 3 to 5%.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Yeah.
Much lower than the industry average for sure for those cold emails.
For the cold emails, yeah. So better stick to good ones.
Yes.
This is some valuable insights. Now, chunk sending is one way that we preach people to do, is to segment your list or to send every hour 1,000 emails for 10 hours versus just sending 10,000 in one shot. Do you think that's a good technique?
Yeah, I would say one, just for throughput's sake. So being able to make sure that those messages get delivered fast and in a fast time frame, but throughout the day. Obviously, if it's a time-sensitive message, we might want to send those all out at once. But it also allows us to be proactive. Say we send the first chunk out, everything goes great. We send the second chunk out, and we tend to see maybe a lot of bounced addresses. We see some deferrals from maybe Yahoo or Gmail saying that we're sending too much, too fast. That allows us to adapt to how we're sending, as opposed to if we sent 1 million messages out all at once, we're kind of at the mercy of the inbox providers to get those messages delivered.
Sure.
So it could take up to 7 hours to get them all delivered, as opposed to breaking it out, adapting to the list that we're sending to, and making changes for each one of those chunks.
And that's interestingly happening in real time. So these adjustments in the background are happening between you guys and the ISPs.
Yeah.
And I know when it comes to IPs, you guys have amazing warm-up procedures that you can automate that. We love it. We actually use it.
Great.
So do you recommend, what's the volume you recommend people to acquire an IP to send versus just using a shared IP?
Yeah, so typically we'll see a reputation established at about 50,000 emails a month. Anything less than that, typically we recommend being on a shared IP, just because filters aren't going to fingerprint and establish reputation at that volume. So anything 50,000 a month and higher, we recommend a dedicated IP, or at least being able to control your own reputation. But that again comes with warming up properly, making sure you're sending to engaged users from the start so that you do establish a good reputation. Obviously you don't want to just take your whole list on a brand new fresh IP and blast it out to everybody.
Right. That's great. Now, you guys merged with Twilio. Both of you are very developer-centric, and both of you are customer-centric. To some extent, Sendgrid, because we work with both, we know Sendgrid is more customer-focused. Both of you focus on developers, so that's a great merger. But that sends developers and everybody in the marketing world the signal that, hey, email is one channel. You should be thinking SMS, you should be thinking WhatsApp, you should be thinking voice, right? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I think the acquisition really was geared towards the omni-channel marketing presence. So being able to find the right message at the right time over the right channel to send to a customer based on their preferences.
I love it, yeah.
Yeah, so email is one way. It's a low-cost option to communicate with your customers, but with Twilio coming into the mix, the SMS, voice, web chat, WhatsApp, which is huge internationally, being able to have all those channels at your disposal to communicate with customers is a huge opportunity. I think there's a big opportunity just in the industry to be able to figure out the best way to communicate with customers and to give developers and marketers the easiest way possible to do that. So whether that is building your own in-house system with our APIs, or if it's coming out with new products and features that marketers are very, very focused and excited about to use to be able to trigger certain messages based on website interaction, if they've opened a certain email, if they respond to a text message. So I think really for the future, we're trying to focus on how we can use all these channels to our advantage, but really to find a targeted way to communicate with clients, customers, users, whatever the audience is, over the right channel.
That's awesome. Any final advice for those who are doing email marketing?
Yeah, I would say one, like we talked about, don't purchase lists. Two, if you have a new stream that you're going to send or a big increase in volume, make sure that you consciously think about the warm-up process. So starting very, very small, say 50 messages on day one, and then slowly, gradually increasing over time. But looking at what you're getting back from the providers. So bounces, deferral messages for delaying any of your messages getting to the inbox. And then being able to adapt to that. So whether that's sending less the next day, if you get really good open rates, that allows you to maybe send more the next day. But keeping in mind the type of message that you're sending. If it's a super cold message that's very salesy and you're trying to reach out to get new business, that's much more volatile and risky. Something that a customer is more interacted and asks for a message, you have a lot of opportunity to engage with that customer and send more email. So targeting the list that you're sending to, making sure the audience that you're sending to is expecting that email, and then being conscious of what the filters are telling you when you're actually sending those messages. It's going to be much easier to establish that reputation up front as opposed to trying to fix problems from sending too much too fast or ending up blacklisted right off the bat.
That's fantastic. So here you go, guys. You have emails changing. Email marketers should be more proactive in their techniques of sending, whether they're doing it for themselves or on behalf of their clients. That presents a problem, but also an opportunity because not everybody can send emails and get the right results. And just like Colin summarized all this good stuff, you better put it to practice. And finally, think beyond just email. You have SMS, you have WhatsApp. So from an omni-channel perspective, it's not only for the big guys, even small marketing teams can implement that very easily and effectively, whether it is through APIs on Sendgrid and Twilio or through a VBOUT platform, which pretty much integrates with you guys.
Great.
So thank you so much. And Colin, this was great.
Yeah, thank you for having me.